My older brother, Marcus, was a storm cloud in human form, and I spent my childhood learning how to read the atmospheric pressure of his moods just to survive. He was a master of casual cruelty, the kind that leaves no visible bruises but chips away at your soul piece by piece. His anger was a physical presence in our house, a heavy blanket that smothered any spark of joy. For him, my happiness was a personal insult. My greatest sin was owning a small, hand-carved wooden bird, a final gift from our grandfather before he passed. It was the one thing in the world that was mine and mine alone, a tiny symbol of a love Marcus never felt he received. One Tuesday, after I made the mistake of laughing at a cartoon, he found that bird, and with a cold, deliberate motion, he crushed it to splinters under his boot right in front of me. As I stared at the wreckage of my only happy memory, something inside me didn't just break, it hardened. The time for enduring was over. It was time to build. My revenge would not be loud or violent, it would be quiet, meticulous, and it would target the only thing he had ever loved, his immaculate, prize-winning vintage sedan. That car was his real family, his pride, his entire identity polished to a mirror shine. The Regional Auto Expo was in 10 days, the biggest event of his year, and I knew exactly how I was going to turn his trophy into a monument of his own humiliation. My plan began in the kitchen. That night, under the cover of darkness, I mixed my first batch. It wasn't much, just a few drops of fish oil from a can of tuna, mixed with a little sugar and water to create a faintly sweet, faintly foul concoction. I crept into the garage, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I used an eyedropper to place a single, tiny drop of the liquid deep into the carpet fibers under the passenger seat, a place he would never think to look. Every time he launched a verbal grenade my way, every time he shoved me into a wall, I would add a new ingredient to my brew. A bit of milk left to sour on the windowsill, the juice from a forgotten pickle jar. Each act of his cruelty fed my resolve, and each night, another drop or two of the worsening mixture found its way into the hidden corners of his car's interior. He was so busy polishing the chrome and waxing the hood, he never noticed the slow, creeping rot I was planting within. To mask any potential scent, he'd hung a new air freshener from the rearview mirror, a cheap, sickeningly sweet cherry bomb that filled the car with an aggressive, artificial perfume. It was the perfect cover. The day of the Auto Expo arrived, a blisteringly hot Saturday. I watched from my bedroom window as he gave the car one last perfect buff, his face beaming with pride. He peeled out of the driveway, the obnoxious cherry scent trailing behind him like a declaration of his own greatness. I spent the day in a state of suspended animation, playing the scene over and over in my mind. I imagined the sun beating down on that metal shell, turning the inside of the car into an oven. I imagined my little drops of malice, baked by the heat, releasing their full, unholy aroma. I pictured the sweet element of my potion calling out to every fly, gnat, and ant in a 5-mile radius. That evening, he returned not in a blaze of glory, but in a cloud of fury and shame. I heard him screaming in the garage, heard him telling our parents how his car had been swarmed, how a disgusting, inexplicable smell had driven judges away. People had pointed and laughed. His perfect prize-winning machine had become a rolling biohazard, a public joke. He spent the next 3 weeks in a frantic, obsessive rage, not directed at me but at the car. He ripped out the carpets, scrubbed the seats, and spent hundreds of dollars on professional detailing, but he could never fully erase the ghost of that smell. And in those 3 weeks, I had peace. He was so consumed by his own mysterious humiliation that he didn't have the energy to even look at me. It was the quietest our house had been in years. The revenge was a complete success, but the true victory, the part that settles in my bones even now, came much later. Years passed, we grew up and moved out. I was home one weekend helping my mom clean out the old garage when my hand closed around something in a dusty box. It was a car air freshener, still in its plastic wrap. The same brand, the same obnoxious, weaponized cherry scent. I opened it and the smell hit me sharp and overwhelming. But I didn't feel a trace of guilt. Instead, that cheap, artificial aroma was the smell of triumph. It was the scent of a crushed wooden bird being avenged. It wasn't just the smell of revenge, it was the smell of the exact moment a quiet boy learned that the most devastating storms aren't the loud ones, but the ones that build in perfect, patient silence. For the rest of my life, the smell of artificial cherry would be the smell of my freedom.